Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 3, Chapter 33, middle of the purport of text 26 by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Devahuti was fully instructed by her son Kapiladev on how to concentrate her mind on the Vishnu form in full detail. So Devahuti was not thinking of any void. She was not thinking of any light or of anything zero, but she was fixing her mind on the personal form of the Lord. This is the goal of yoga. This is samadhi. Following the instructions of her son in the matter of devotional service, she contemplated the form of the Lord within herself with great devotional love. So the Ashtanga yogi, they think of the Paramatma in the heart, but the relationship is not yet established. They understand God as Paramatma in the heart. But here, because Devahuti is engaging in devotional service, and so she is having this relationship with the Lord, not only seeing him as the Paramatma, or the Lord is her son, so she already has that natural attachment for him. At the ultimate issue, when one is fully absorbed in thought of the Supreme Lord and meditates on him constantly, that is the highest perfection. Bhagavad Gita confirms that one who is always absorbed in such a way is to be considered the topmost yogi. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 47, Yoginam api sarvesham mad gatenantaratmanam, that the highest yogi, Krishna is saying, is the one who abides in me, always thinks of me within himself. So fully absorbed in the Supreme Lord. This is the highest yogi. The goal of yoga is not to become zero, or the goal of yoga is not to enter the Brahmajyoti, but the goal of yoga is to realize that the Lord has a personal form, And higher than that is Bhakti Yoga, that, okay, the Lord has a form and I have an eternal relationship with the Lord. So let me engage in that relationship. So this is Bhakti Yoga. So how could we do that? Absorbed in the thought of the Lord and meditate on him constantly. In our stage, we may not be able to do it because we are sadhakas, practicing the devotees. What we could do is do our sadhana well, do our hearing and chanting, and that will lead us to remembrance of the Lord. The real purpose of all processes of transcendental realization, Gyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga, is to arrive at the point of devotional service. I'm sorry. Why do we have to come to the point of devotional service? It's because that is the activity of the soul. The soul is always active. It's not that the body is active. We are thinking that the activity is due to the body, but we have seen dead bodies and they don't move. So what is the active principle? That's the soul. So that's the reason, even if we are going to the Gyan part or the Dhyan part, we have to come to the point of devotional service. That is the natural position of every Jivatma. Every Jivatma is engaged in activity, and that activity is devotional service. If one endeavors simply to achieve knowledge of the absolute truth or the supersoul but has no devotional service, he labors without gaining the real result. This is compared to beating the husks of wheat after the grains have already been removed. So, the wheat has the husk, the covering, the chilko. But if the wheat is already come out and we are just going to beat the husk, we're not going to get anything from them. Similarly, if we are going to try to understand the Supreme Lord by imagination or by some speculation, we are going to reach nowhere. We will not get any result. The only way we can understand the absolute truth is through devotional service. Bhaktyamam abhijanati. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita chapter 14. It's only by devotional service that I can be known. When we begin to hear about the Lord, we can begin to understand Him. When we begin to chant His name, we can understand Him more. When we engage in service, we can understand Him further. So, unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate goal, it is valueless simply to speculate or perform mystic yoga practice. So, the ultimate goal, what is the ultimate goal? Not to just realize that I am the soul, Aham Brahmasmi. That is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to be situated in our eternal relationship with God, is to be situated in love of God. That is prayojana. Sambandha Gyan is to understand that I am an eternal servant of God. Jivera Swarup Hai, Krishnera Nityadas. Once the Sambandha is established, then the soul says, okay, so I'm the servant. So what I have to do? I have to serve. That is devotional service. That is abhideya. And when we engage in devotional service, when we engage in abhideya, we come to prayojana, ultimate goal, love of Krishna. In the Ashtanga Yoga system, the seventh stage of perfection is dhyan. This dhyan is the third stage in devotional service. There are 9 stages of devotional service. The first is hearing, and then comes chanting. So devotional service begins by hearing. When we hear from the devotees, not hearing from professional speakers. No, we have to hear from the devotees in the disciplic succession, in the parampara system, because then we are actually getting knowledge of Krishna. So first is hearing. When we hear properly, not hearing from one ear and taking it out of the other, but hearing, taking the instruction really to the heart. What will we do when we do that? We will automatically chant. Then with the hearing and chanting, automatically we will get remembrance. So this remembrance is the third stage of devotional service. And it is the seventh stage in the Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga. It's called Ashtanga because there's 8 stages to this, eight steps to be done. So dhyan comes in the 7th. But when we do bhakti, it's already coming in the 3rd stage. So then by executing devotional service, therefore, one automatically becomes an expert jnani and an expert yogi. We don't need to endeavor separately to become a jnani or a yogi. We simply engage in bhakti yoga. Automatically, we will get detachment from the world and perfect knowledge. By engaging in devotional service, we just get it. It's like when we eat food, nobody has to tell us, hey, now your hunger is satisfied, now you're feeling nourished, now you're feeling stronger. No, we feel it automatically. Similarly, when we engage in devotional service, automatically we will get detachment from the material world and perfect knowledge. In other words, Gyan and Yoga are different preliminary stages of devotional service. So even if we are following the Gyan path or the Ashtanga Yoga path, we have to come to the part of devotional service to be situated in our real constitutional position, to understand the absolute truth. Devahuti was expert in accepting the real substance. She contemplated the form of Vishnu in detail as advised by her smiling son Kapiladev. At the same time, she was thinking of Kapiladev, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore she completely perfected her austerities, penances, and transcendental realization. So, did anyone want to add anything or comment?
No.
Okay.
All good.
Okay. So reading on. Nityaruddha samadhitvan paravrita guna brahma na sasmara tadatmanam swapne drishtam evothitaha. Situated in eternal trance and freed from illusion, impelled by the modes of material nature, she forgot her material body, just as one forgets his different bodies in a dream. A great Vaishnav said that he who has no remembrance of his body is not bound to material existence. As long as we are conscious of our bodily existence, it is to be understood that we are living conditionally under the three modes of material nature. When one forgets his bodily existence, his conditional material life is over. This forgetfulness is actually possible when we engage our senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So we, in our conditioned state, we are thinking, I'm the body. We are identifying ourselves with the body, with all the upadhis. We have so many upadhi. I'm a man or a woman. I am Indian or I'm Taiwanese or American, or I'm, you know, a mother or a husband or a wife. And then so many upadhis we create. And that all those upadhis are only related to the body, not to the soul. The soul is neither American nor Taiwanese. The soul is eternal, loving servant of Krishna. So, till the time we are thinking all these upadhis, we are in material consciousness. And when we are able to forget these upadhis, then that is the point of liberation. Now, how can we come to that stage? Uh, Only when we engage the senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Tattat Pravartena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Uttam Bhakti Uttama Bhakti Uchyate. That when we engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesha Rishikena. uh, that Rishikesh is the senses and the master of senses. So, Lord Krishna is the master of senses. If we can engage our senses in his service, then we will be freed from all these upadhis. And even while living in the body, we can become liberated. Right now, in the conditioned state, one engages his senses as a member of a family or as a member of a society or country. But when forgets all such membership in material circumstances and realizes that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, that is actual forgetfulness of material nature. That I am an eternal servant of Krishna. This is liberation when we can realize this point. So we may not realize it. We may not realize, but we can practice it. At our position, we may say, oh, it's so difficult to realize this. But we can practice. Practice, like when that's the reason the person before running the Olympics, they practice for years. Practice for years. So we need to practice being a servant of Krishna. That's why we engage in devotional service for the pleasure of Guru, for the pleasure of Krishna. This forgetfulness actually occurs when one renders service unto the Lord. A devotee no longer works with the body for sense gratification with family, society, country, humanity, and so on. He simply works for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. That is perfect Krishna consciousness. So um, if we are able to if we are able to understand that I am an eternal servant of Krishna. So let me do my duties, whatever I need to do, for the pleasure of Krishna. Let me be an instrument of love in the hands of Krishna. Gradually, we will be able to forget our material designation. Because our material designation is, after all, a temporary position for us. It's not our permanent situation. We are all eternally parts and parcels of Krishna, servants of Krishna. A devotee always merges in
Sorry,
transcendental. Yes,
sorry.
yes,
Yeah, so in
yes.
this case, does it mean that this devotee, I mean, who is, pure devotee, he doesn't follow the four principles of religion, dharma, artha, kam, moksha, the way, like,
He
how
does,
it goes? No, right?
yeah, no, he doesn't need to because he's already beyond moksha.
Right. Okay.
So he follows he follows the scriptures, he follows the rules and regulations of devotional service. He does not act whimsically. No, he follows scriptures, he does not engage in sinful activity, so outwardly he does everything in a perfect manner, understanding I'm a servant of God.
Okay.
Mm.
So then these principles doesn't apply, right? In his life, like economic development and all that doesn't come in, right?
So, he may be, for example, we know there are great Vaishnavas who are grihasthas also. So he
Mm.
may be involved in some kind of a work activity because he needs to maintain his family and himself. But his intention is not economic development. His intention is, this is my service to Krishna.
Okay.
So, like, for example, economic development then will come. Um, so religious principles. So he practices all the principles. Why? For the pleasure of Krishna. A devotee will never go against the principles of religion. But everything is done that I am a servant of Krishna, is done
Okay.
with that intention. Yeah. A devotee always merges. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
A devotee always merges in transcendental happiness, and therefore he has no experience of material distress. Now, just being in the material atmosphere uh, is distress. We don't realize it, how distressful it is. There are these miseries that are always attacking us. Miseries either of the body or mind, misery caused by other people, or misery caused by natural disaster. For 2 3 years 2 years we have been seeing this pandemic, whole world. But apart from that, then there are miseries caused by our own bodies and minds, miseries that are caused by other living entities. So this is the material atmosphere. But a pure devotee, he is not there. He is feeling this transcendental happiness, happiness which is not material. It's on the spiritual platform, transcendental platform. Why? Because he's always engaged in serving Krishna. This transcendental happiness is called eternal bliss, ananda. This ananda. So we can feel this ananda when we engage in the service of Krishna. According to the opinion of devotees, constant remembrance of the Supreme Lord is called samadhi or trance. If one is constantly in trance, there is no possibility of his being attacked or even touched by the modes of material nature. As soon as one is freed from the contamination, I'm sorry, of the three material modes, he no longer has to take birth to transmigrate from one form to another in this material world. So we are currently in the entanglement of the modes of nature. We act, the modes make us act. We may be in the mode of we can see how the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance at different times of the day, how they overcome us, and we are acting against, under the influence of the modes. We are the spirit soul. But because of the influence of the modes, we are acting, we are doing so many activities which we don't need to do. How do we get out of this? Only when we engage in devotional service. Then, when we engage in devotional service, gradually, we will come to the point of pure devotional service. Constantly, constantly thinking of Krishna. And that is pure devotional service begins from the liberated platform. A pure devotee, he is already liberated because he's completely realized his position of Jivera Swarupai Krishna and Nityadas. So his activities, although from to the outside world, may look like ordinary activities, but they are all for his intention is only for pleasure of Krishna. How can I please Krishna? So I'm not, do you all want to stop here for today? Because it's 27 already.
I think this verse is short, right? So we can continue.
Okay. Taddeha parata posho api akrishas chadi asambhavat babau maler avachannaha sadhu maiva pavakaha. Her body was being taken care of by the spiritual damsels created by her husband Kardama. And since she had no mental anxiety at that time, her body did not become thin. She appeared just like a fire surrounded by smoke. Because she was always in trance, in transcendental bliss, the thought of the personality of Godhead was always carefully fixed in her mind. So Devahuti's consciousness is just fixed on Kapila Dev. That's what she's thinking. Her whole being is fixed on the Supreme Lord. And because of that, she's feeling this great happiness, the Ananda. You know, because Krishna, he's the reservoir of all pleasure. Where does all pleasure come from? It comes from Krishna. So when, for example, if we are under the water, we are taking a shower under water, and like taking a bath, then automatically we get purified. Krishna, he's Satchid Ananda. So just always by meditating on him, thinking about him, talking about him, immediately allows a person to experience this Ananda. She did not become thin, for she was taken care of by the celestial maidservants created by her husband. It is said, according to the Ayurvedic medical science, that if one is free from anxieties, he generally becomes fat. Devahuti, being situated in Krishna consciousness, had no mental anxieties, and therefore her body did not become thin. It is customary in the renounced order of life that one should not take any service from a servant or maid, but Devahuti was being served by the celestial maidservants. This may appear to be against the spiritual concept of life, but just as a fire is still beautiful, even when surrounded by smoke, she looked completely pure, although it seemed that she was living in a luxurious way. So Devahuti was still living in her palace. She did not leave, and there were the maidservants that were created by her husband to take care of her. So they were continuing to take care of her, but she was not attached to them. Her mind, her complete being was completely fixed on the Supreme Lord. And so it's said that she didn't become thin because she didn't have any anxieties. Ayurveda is saying if we have some anxiety, then when it's free from anxiety, one becomes fat. But nowadays may be different also. Huh? Nowadays we can see that sometimes because of stress, we may end up overeating. You know, we can see that. So times have changed, I guess. At least for this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Because it's Kali Yuga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's Kali Yuga.
Yes. So right now, I don't think we can say if we see somebody as fatty, that they don't have any.
Yeah.
I guess we could say healthy looking. You know, maybe that we could say. or I don't
But
know.
previously, she was also doing the austeres, right? Puja, then she
Yeah.
became very thin.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes. So good point. Now, why she became very thin that time and now she didn't become thin?
Because she was not with Krishna that time. She was not,
Yeah.
she was, right?
Yeah.
Because she was
Yeah.
doing her physical endeavor that time for the family, for like how we do. But Krishna was
Yes.
not the center that time. But
Yes.
Krishna is the center now. Now it's the
That's,
devotional service.
that's
So then
right.
she's been taken care by the
Yes,
celestial.
that's nice. Very
Yeah.
good. Yes, that was a very good comparison. Like, okay, before she was doing austerity, she didn't become thin because she was not fixed on the Supreme Lord. I mean, before she became thin because she was not fixed, she was doing as her duty as a wife, you know. Now, this is complete devotional service. So she's completely in happiness, completely blissful. Yeah, we can see how, just in the example of Devahuti, these two examples can be seen.
And you can
Very
see the
good.
glow, na? The person who's engaged in devotional service. You can always
Yeah,
find the glow, right?
that's right. Yes, that's right.
Mhm.
It's true. Yeah, the devotees, they have that, the bliss that they are feeling, as you're
Yeah.
saying, the glow.
Yeah.
Like
So it
how you,
shows.
like, you know, how you can say, how you can talk about the Pandavas, even Draupadi, though being the queen when they were in the Vanvas for 14 years, I think, right? When they were given. So she was doing the physical, but Krishna was always there. They were all continuously remembering Krishna. And sometimes they didn't even have proper meals or something to eat because they were living like brahmanas. They went into, like, when the mother and the four sons were doing, they used to go and beg out. And so, like, even then, because
Yeah.
Krishna was always the center, nothing, there is
Yeah.
no mention of any physical hindrance to them or anything, nothing at all. They
In
were,
spite of.
yeah, in spite of, like, they
Yes.
used to go. And so there was nothing कि उनकी कभी भी कहीं नहीं पड़ा कि उनकी body कहीं से कुछ निकल गया या कम हो गया या they used to do a lot of austerity, like
Yes.
Yudhishthira Maharaj used to follow Ekadashi every time, and all the
Yeah.
Pandavas, in
All
fact,
the Pandavas.
all the
Yeah.
Pandavas.
Except
So
for Bhim. Yeah.
yeah, so, like, yes, so that means that if Krishna is in the center, then yes,
Then
everything
there's
is
no
taken care of. Everything
misery.
is taken, yeah.
Yeah, Jai. Thank you.
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,
Thank
Shila
you,
Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening and joining in today morning.